start a series called Following Jesus. I'll try that again, thank you. We're going to start a series called Following Jesus. I've told you 1,000 times, don't exaggerate. Can we stand then as we honour the Word of God? And I'll read to you from a familiar passage in chapter 8 of John. Early in the morning he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery. Placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Rabbi, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in our Torah, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. But what do you say?" This they said to test him, that they may have some charge to bring against him. But Jesus bent down and began writing in the dust with his finger. When they kept questioning, he straightened up and answered them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote in the dust. On hearing this, they began to leave one by one, the older first, until he was left alone with the woman. Jesus stood up and said to her, "Lady, where are they? Has no one judged against you?" She said, "No one, sir." Jesus said to her, "Neither do I judge against you. Go now, but don't sin any more." Again Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life." May God bless the reading of the word. Amen.
Amen.
John recorded these words so that every generation from this time could hear the words of Jesus. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Every generation hears that to the Hebrews and the Greeks and the Romans, to all the great empires and nations that followed from that. You know, even the French colonial and the Mongol and the Spanish, the great Russian empires, and of course the greatest empire that ever was the British Empire. To every generation, to every street, to every town, till it comes knocking on your door, on the door of your heart. And Jesus said this, "I am the light of the world." In other words, I'm the light of all that inhabit the world. I'm the light of people. If you follow me, you won't walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. But history has shown that men are more prone to want to prefer the darkness than the light. They want to be ignorant of divine things. They don't want to know the knowledge and the truth of God that can set them free. And they don't want to know about the demand that it might make on their lives. But I want to tell you something. Some people have followed Jesus. They followed his example. And in following his example, they become known as the disciples of Christ. The disciples of Jesus. You and I, hopefully, are disciples of Jesus. And anybody that follows Jesus, according to John, when he wrote a letter, he said this, "Whoever claims to walk with him ought to walk in the same way he walked." It is important to imitate Christ in everything that we do, to follow mindset, every heart decision to follow Christ, to be his disciple. He says if you follow him, you won't walk in darkness. The darkness of what? Ignorance. Of sin and the misery of the life to come when we die here. By following Christ, we can walk in the light. It's the duty of every Christian to follow Jesus. Did you know that? To follow Jesus. And so over the next few weeks, I want us to look at how can we imitate Christ? How can we follow him and do what he does and say what he says and be like Jesus? And so I thought I would start where, interestingly enough, the preceding verses to this verse give us an introduction into something about how we need to follow Jesus. And the story is about avoiding rash judgment. We need to follow Christ in the way that he avoided rash judgment. Now the word rash is probably not a very sort of modern day word, but it really means to have a careful and correct consideration of what might happen if you say that thing. Oh, the pain we could have avoided if we had some forethought. And here is an account of a woman caught in adultery, a very famous one. I think that most people will have heard the phrase, "He who's without sin, let him cast the first stone." We've probably all heard that. But this is where the story comes from. And I thought at first it was all about grace and forgiveness. But if you look a little closer, and we're going to do that in a minute, you'll see that actually it's all about avoiding rash judgment. It's all about not making judgment on somebody. So, I read this story to you, and I want to tell you something. We often miss the meaning of stories because we don't put our ancient Hebrew spectacles on when we read them. We have a bias towards 21st century thinking. Unavoidable, I think. But this is really a story that is set in the days of Jesus that is subject to the law of Moses. So here's the woman caught in an act of adultery, who we may assume that actually she genuinely was caught in the act. You know, not great. You wouldn't want that, would you? The scribes and the Pharisees reminded Jesus this. It says, the law of Moses commands us to stone such a woman. But what do you say? Now Jesus got a problem with the scribes and the Pharisees. And the problem was this: they have a very rigid and blinkered interpretation of the scriptures. I mean, it is rigid. They have, and because of this rigidness in their thinking about how they interpret the scriptures, everything is biased and creates a belief system that in fact says this, that the law is more important than people. Did you hear me? That the scriptures, the law is more important than people. I want to tell you something. The strange thing is this: the law was given to protect people. So the scribes and Pharisees, by the way, weren't big sinners. They were some of the most holy and moral people that you'd ever meet. But they got a slant. They were moral people, but they had this attitude sight of God. Unless you live like the Pharisees lived, you will of no value to God in their thinking. My word. So they wouldn't associate with sinners like you and me, you know. Or am I the only one? And they certainly wouldn't associate with this woman who'd been caught in adultery. Don't go near adulterers. You don't want to be near them. So what's wrong with this story? So I'm going to point a few things out to you as we go through it. First thing that's wrong with this story is this, that, let me read to you from Leviticus 20. This is the Torah, this is the law of Moses that they're quoting from. Said if the law says she's got to be stoned. So Jesus is on a mission here. But I want to tell you a few things that are wrong. First of all, Leviticus 20 says this: if a man commits adultery with the wife of his neighbour, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. The question is, where's the man in the story? They haven't brought the man. The man's not there. So first of all, they are in error because they haven't brought, according to the law of Moses, the man with them. And they should have. Second thing that's wrong with it: 2 or 3 witnesses are required in any act like this stoning. Let me read to you from Deuteronomy. On the evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses, the one who is to die shall be put to death. A person shall not be put to death on the evidence of a witness. I want to tell you something. There is no mention of any witnesses here. Not mentioned. And by the way, a witness was the one that was free from sin and able to cast the first stone. That was the law of Moses. In the law of Moses, if you witnessed somebody commit an adultery, you could bring them out. Well, I tell you what, you had some responsibility with that, bringing them out, because you were the first one that had to throw the stone. You started the execution by throwing a stone. You were the one without sin. Let me read you something else from third thing here. According to the law, every person that is accused of something can have a fair trial. What's fair about this trial? Nothing. Deuteronomy 19:16, if a malicious witness rises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties shall appear before the law, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently. That's a fair trial. Fourth thing that's wrong with this story, that they brought this trial, or apparent trial, they brought it in front of the temple. Well, that's a no-no. You don't do that. Deuteronomy 22:24. Then you shall bring them both out to the gate of the city, and you shall stone them to death with stones. Sorry, I've nipped to the next one. Verse before, chapter before. The elders of the city and the gate. You're supposed to bring a trial to the city gate before the Lord, and before the elders, who will give them a fair trial. The hypocrisy of the Pharisees. Fifthly, the other thing that's wrong, it was the wrong place for execution. You can't execute somebody in front of the temple. Deuteronomy 22:24. Then you shall bring them both out at the city gate, and you shall stone them to death with stones. The Pharisees, the scribes, and the crowd were in error. All of them breaking the law sin. All of them. All of them doing it wrong. Should have gone out to the city gate for judgment by the elders and then taken out of the city gate for stoning. That's how the law worked in them days. Well, how did Jesus react? Now, Jesus is a rabbi, and he knows the law of Moses. Every Jew learnt it off by heart. So the first thing that Jesus does, when hearing this accusation, because they say to him, but what do you say? Now he's about to say something. And this is how he says it. He starts writing in the dust. He starts writing on the ground. It was common practice to do so. It wasn't unusual to write in the dust. Common practice, still is today in fact. It's common practice for two reasons. One, it was a way of bargaining. He was about to bargain for this woman by writing in the dust. It was a way of negotiating between two parties. If you were in the market square, you could negotiate a price on something by saying, what about this? And they would negotiate by writing in the dust of the earth. And the second point, and this is an interesting point, it was also about, when I mentioned debating, it was also about, you could have a debate about different points of view. But also the rabbi would do a thing called mizpah. Mizpah meant that it was a means of educating people or showing people the way to go. But what the rabbi would do is he'd only give them little clues and hints so that the disciple had to do some work for himself and come to a conclusion himself. That's good education, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. So he could, writing in the earth, could write stuff to point somebody to the way. I wonder, and I don't know, but I wonder if he starts to actually quote the Torah to them. And when they start reading the Torah, wow. He's negotiating for this woman. He's negotiating for this woman to have a fair trial. And when different students understood things at different times, the older student would understand something much quicker than the younger one because they were very familiar with the law of Moses. And so when Jesus would write something, the older person would blink first. They would twig on first. So he's negotiating for this woman using the law of Moses. Now, writing was a means of communicating. And they could, by seeing it, they could hear it. Am I making sense? They're listening by seeing. They're seeing something written and they're listening. And Jesus verbally responds. Now let me read to you. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger in the ground. And they continued to ask him. He stood up and said, let him that is without sin, that is, the witnesses, let him without sin cast or throw the first stone at her. Nobody's going to throw a stone because the witnesses aren't there. There's no witness. There's nobody to throw the stone first. Once more he bent down on the ground. But away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was left alone with the woman. All of this crowd were in sin. All of them breaking the law of Moses. All of them. No witnesses here to start the stoning. They wasn't there. It was in the wrong place. You can't do it here. You can't do this. You've got to do it that way. Jesus absolutely won the argument. He won. And she's left alone with Jesus. And in fact, only Jesus could have judged her. He said, all judgment is given to me by my Father. He could have judged her. He could have made something happen. But he was following the law of Moses. And the law of Moses said, you can't stone her because she ain't had a fair trial. And Jesus was not about to judge her because he knew that a fair trial had taken place. Do you see? John said this, for God did not send his Son into the world to be a judge against the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. So Jesus stood up, said to her, woman, or lady. By the way, that word woman is, in the Greek, means lady. It's a polite term. It's not woman. Fetch me my dinner. Woman, get in that kitchen and rattle those pots and pans. Because I'm a man and I'm hungry. I want my dinner. Woman. Woman, listen to me. You know why God gave you smaller feet than men? No. Yeah, that's right. So you can get nearer the sink. It's not that kind of woman. I want to tell you something. Jesus absolutely had full dignity for ladies.
Amen.
In fact, he brought ladies right up to the same level of men, where they were always supposed to be.
Yeah, come on. Woo!
I tried that woman thing on my wife. She just ignored me. So what is the lesson we're learning today? Here it is. Sometimes things come to light about people. Whether it's true or false, whether it be a man or a woman, but we are to follow the example of Christ. You have no right to judge anybody. I have no right to judge anybody. In fact, Jesus said, judge not, and you will not be judged. But if you do judge, the measure you use will be measured back to you. So in other words, if you start picking up on people's faults and jumping on what's wrong with them, because you're right, God help us. To my distress, I have proved to be wrong several times. Several thousands of times. So in other words, don't judge anybody, because if you do, you'll get the same treatment back. And what's more, you probably don't even know about it. Because it's all behind your back. It's all behind my back. Because, I can say something here, but somebody else is saying something there about me. Wouldn't it be great to keep our mouths shut? And then nobody over there will be judging me here. That's what I did say. That's not my idea. That's Jesus. That's what he's like, Even Jesus didn't judge her. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Jesus didn't judge her. Now don't be mistaken. One day all men will die and receive the judgment of God. For it's appointed for men to die once, and after that judgment. You will be judged. I will be judged for my sins. God help me. I'll be judged harder than you are. Because I'm the one teaching it. Pray for me. Don't judge me. Pray for me. No, the Bible's very clear. You reap what you sow. I am not the judge and jury of anybody. I cannot make those judgments. I make judgments about people, and I want to tell you something. I very, very rarely seek the facts. I just go on what I think and feel. After all, what I think and feel is right. I don't need to make inquiries. I'm right. Well, you're a Pharisee. I'm a Pharisee. If a man is struggling with a sin, you cannot judge him. I can't judge him. And as soon as you do, I want to tell you, sin is crouching at your door. And sin, when it has its full way in you, will kill you. Stoned dead. How many misjudgments have been made? How many things have been said that weren't true? How many people have been rejected and hurt? How many relationships have been torn apart because somebody got the wrong end of the stick? We cannot judge according to our subjective feelings. Only God can make exact and precise decisions and judgments about you and I. Only God. Because he knows everything. I don't just mean everything out there. I mean everything in there. Everything in there. Everything in there. He knows. Doesn't matter what you say here. He knows. And so the greatest example we are called to follow is Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And he tells us, do not judge and you will not be judged. Now, I'm avoiding the whole subject of the elders making judgments about things, because they are called to do that. But that is about a spiritual judgment, about spiritual things. But on this level, we are called to judge no man and nobody. Am I right?
Yeah.
Jesus said this, whoever follows me shall not walk in darkness.
Woo! Come on.
Follow me, says Jesus. I don't make the judgments about them. I don't do it. I could do it, but I don't. Whoever follows me shall will not walk in judgment, but will have the light of life.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So may God bless you all as you pursue Jesus and follow him in everything you think and do. May God bless you all.